The typical Viking was, first and foremost, a farmer of crops and livestock. Self-sufficient and resourceful, many Vikings were also skilled hunters, fishers, and foragers. Thus, almost everything that Vikings ate was locally sourced and seasonally dependent. Food preservation and minimizing waste were important as long winters in their northern climate caused fresh food scarcity. Vikings even imported some items as travel and trade became more common. A Viking life was full of hard work. It required tremendous energy because even while farming and gathering, Vikings also needed the stamina for seafaring and raiding. So what did Vikings seek to fuel their daily lives and conquests while maintaining a fierce reputation as warriors? The whole foods and ingredients available to Vikings were more diverse than one might assume, considering where they lived. What resources were available to Vikings, and how were they acquired? Vikings acquired meat, eggs, and milk in various ways. They raised many of the typical farm animals, and hunted both land and marine life. Fishing provided them with many types of fish, but herring, salmon, and trout were among the most common. Beached whale was even on the menu if the opportunity arose. Meat was a priority because it provided protein and many other resources, like labor, skins, bones, and furs. Crop farming and foraging rounded their diet with many nutritious plant-based foods and honey. The most common grains were barley, rye, oats, millet, and birch bark. Fruits included apples, pears, cherries, plums, and berries. Common vegetables and wild greens included a varied selection, from onions to pigweed. The legumes and nuts that would have been available to Vikings were peas, broad beans, hazelnuts, and imported walnuts. However, eating healthy whole foods was no excuse for bland meals. Vikings also seasoned their food using salt and quite a few herbs and spices. In addition, they would have gained access to pepper, more exotic seasonings, and grape wine later in the Viking Age. How did Vikings preserve and process food? Grains became porridge, ale, and unleavened flat bread. From milk came cheese, whey, butter, buttermilk, and curds. Vikings even used milk to make skyr, a soft yogurt-like cheese still eaten today. They would pickle fruits, vegetables, and fish for preservation. Curing, smoking, drying, or storing in whey prevented meats and fish from spoiling. To make mead and wine, Vikings fermented honey and fruits. How was Viking food prepared? Food preparation was quite simple in Viking society. While no one is sure whether gender roles played a part in who typically cooked at home, we know that men prepared food for themselves when traveling. Norse people usually cooked in a cauldron suspended over a fire pit. Each house had a central fire pit for daily cooking. Still, halls had the largest ones, allowing them to cook larger quantities for feasts. Boiling was the standard cooking method, but roasting and frying were also practiced. Toward the end of the Viking Age, using heat stones for baking in ovens also became more common. The most common meal was a meat stew called scouse, prepared in a cauldron by boiling meat, vegetables, greens, and seasonings. The stew simmered most of the day, reusing the leftover liquid daily, increasing the flavor. What meals did Vikings eat at home, at sea, and on special occasions? Viking families ate together twice per day. The first meal was dagvather, which means day meal in Old Norse. This morning meal usually consisted of leftover stew, porridge, bread, fruit, or some combination thereof. The morning drink most likely would have been buttermilk. Nattvather, meaning night meal in Old Norse, was the second meal of the day. Families ate this meal at the end of the working day. It typically consisted of scouse, bread, and ale. When it was time for a sweet treat, Vikings would put honey on berries, fruit, or flat bread. While at sea, Vikings would bring food that could be preserved, like dried fish and grains. Of course, ships would also have been well stocked with ale because the fermentation and brewing process would have kept it fresh longer than water. In a time when water often wasn't the safest option, ale played an important role in hydration. For feasts, the menu was similar to typical Viking meals, but the amount of food prepared was enormous. Depending on the host's wealth, stronger ale, mead, and imported wines would be provided. As well, roasted meats would have been more common at feasts. They even served horse meat on certain occasions, which later caused conflict with the Christian Church. With each new archaeological discovery from the Viking Age, we uncover more about the daily lives of Norse people. We know today that the Viking diet was diverse and nutritious, reflecting their resourceful way of life. They made the most of the available resources with a high-protein, locally sourced, and seasonally dependent diet. This variety of food made for a healthy diet that could fuel their daily lives and conquests, leaving a lasting legacy as fierce and formidable people. If you found this video informative, please subscribe. It lets me know that an audience here finds this content valuable. Also, remember to check out my other videos for more Viking content. Thanks.